Financial Argument. Follow us on YouTube.
Let's get right into the economic collapse news. Now, we are just days away from this election, and things are really getting crazy out there. And we can see that the economy is continually deteriorating. It's not getting better. Layoffs are continuing at Credit Suisse. We can see the latest rounds of layoffs as part of their downsizing. And we can see a lot of financial institutions, they're cutting thousands and thousands of jobs right now. And Credit Suisse is saying, come March, they're going to go even deeper and get rid of a lot more people. And we can see why, because what we're looking at is a bond bubble that is now over $199 trillion in size. And we can see the debt to GDP ratio is over 250%. And the central banks have tried pretty much everything at this time. I mean, really think about it. We're negative interest rates, zero interest rates, creating currency out of thin air. And what do they have left to do? They have like three options left. The governments can stop spending money, they can increase revenues, or make the debt load easier to service. Now, number one, we know governments, politicians, they're never going to go for cutting back on spending. That's completely impossible. We see option number two, which is increase revenues. That means more taxes for the people because they have to bring in more revenue to the government. Is that going to work? Most likely not. Option number three is to make the debt load easier to service. Now, they can do this through inflation. They've already tried it through lower interest rates, negative interest rates. It has not worked. And this is why the central banks have been talking about inflation. And we know that once they start letting the inflation gates open, they won't be able to stop it. It'll be a runaway train. And this is what we've been talking about for a very long time, where inflation is going to hit the United States. It's going to hit many countries, which really means a devaluation of the dollar. And we see right now that major inflation is coming. This is a major signal, and people really need to get prepared for what is about to happen. We see out in Ukraine, the United States government, the central bankers, the rest of the private Western central bank countries, well, they're not backing down. They are not going to give in to the Minsk agreement. We see U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, has said that Ukraine would not be urged to implement its political liabilities foreseen in the Minsk agreement until Russia fulfills its liabilities. And we can see right now, basically what she's saying is that Ukrainian government is not going to fulfill the Minsk agreements, which we knew from the beginning. We see the United States has already set the date to bring in the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, which is the THAAD system. They're going to be bringing it into South Korea within 8 to 10 months. We see the U.S. Treasury Department has issued new rules banning American financial institutions from opening or maintaining accounts created on behalf of North Korean banks. And basically what they just did was closed off North Korea access to the U.S. financial system, where they are really pushing North Korea to do something. They're provoking these countries. We see the battle in Raqqa has begun. We see the U.S. has let loose the terrorist group, and they are now taking over Raqqa. And we can see what they're trying to do because it's all over the corporate media, where they keep mentioning the word that the United States government, central bankers, the terrorist groups, the moderate rebels, they're taking over the capital of the Islamic State. And like we said before, most likely what they're going to do is they're going to create this illusion that Raqqa is now the new capital for the moderate rebels. And they're just trying to continually use brainwashing to convince everyone that this is a capital, that this is a capital. And this is what they're doing right now. And we can see that the United States government, well, they're pushing for this, and their plan is to separate Syria and Iraq and create a Kurdish region. And they've been doing this, but their problem is that the moderate rebels have a close association to Al-Qaeda al-Nusra. And this is why they renamed the group to Al-Sham, because they're trying to separate this to regain the possibility that, yes, this is a grassroots operation where they want Assad out, and if they can't get Assad out, they should have their own country. But first, what they have to do is separate them from the terrorist groups, not physically, but mentally. And this is why they continually say, oh, we just killed another al-Qaeda leader, we've hit an al-Nusra leader, we're killing those leaders, and we can see right now that the groups are separating. This is why they rename the group. And we see right now that they are continually doing this because this is their plan. Now, of course, Assad, Russia, most likely they're not going to go along with this. We know the United States has been setting this up for a very long time. This is why there are two bases. This is why they've raised the flag in this region, because they're making their play. Now, we know the elections, they're just days away right now. And we can see Trump was giving a speech out in Nevada, and someone yelled gun, and he was rushed off the stage. And we can see that there were tweets that were going out there saying that there was an assassination attempt. But it was from a man, which his name is Austin Kreitz. He's 33, and he works on high-altitude balloons. He was holding up a sign that said Republicans against Trump. And Kreitz says on his Facebook that he's voting for Hillary Clinton and calls Trump a fascist. Now, most likely this was a plant in the audience, but the question is, why did they do this? Well, when you look at this, it looks like this was a plant and this was a test. It looks like they were testing to see how the Secret Service reacted, which direction they would take Trump off the stage, what they would actually do, how long it took. Because we know, most likely, there's going to be a real assassination attempt. Now, by doing this, they're also showing that, yes, there are people out there that will try to assassinate Trump. So they're already using the psyop of assassination. And right now we're calling the establishment out on this because we know what their plans are. And we can see there's a lot of elites right now that are leaving the area. They're leaving the country during the election period. We know that John Kerry will be out of the country at this point in time. There's other elites that have also made plans to be out of this country. And we can see right now that this is a tense situation, this election, where the establishment, the elites, the deep state, the shadow government, they are prepared to do whatever they need to do to keep their power. Now, Guccifer, he's saying that he's going to monitor the elections. This is Guccifer 2.0 from the inside. He's going to be looking at what is really going on. How does he have access to this? Well, he is a hacker. And we can see that he's going to produce evidence if he finds that these elections were manipulated. Now, most likely they will be manipulated because we know from Bev Harris with fraction magic, and we know that these systems are pre-programmed ahead of time. This is why they've been looking at the ballots. Very interestingly, Obama signed an executive order preparing for an epidemic before the election. So right before the election, he signed a worldwide epidemic executive order. And it's called Advancing the Global Health Security Agenda to Achieve a World Safe and Secure from Infectious Disease Threats. It gives the authorities extra powers to respond to biological threats as they emerge, which is very interesting because we're getting all of these warnings, part of their psyop about what is going to happen during these elections. We hear the Islamic State has come out, and we know it's not really the Islamic State. We know this is all coming from the intelligence agency, from the deep state, from the shadow government. And they said that they're going to slaughter Americans on election day if they go out and they vote. We also know that Al-Qaeda is saying they're going to be hitting New York, Texas, and Virginia. And we have to really look at this because a lot of this is coming from site intelligence groups, CIA, the deep state, the shadow government, and they're out there telling the American people that this election might be halted if they don't get what they want. Because we know the president, if this does occur, they will call a state of emergency. They will postpone these elections. Now, if you notice on the corporate media, they've been keeping the elections count numbers very close. One time they'll tell you that Trump is in the lead, then they'll say that Clinton overtook the lead, but they're trying to keep it very, very close. Now they're out there telling everyone about the Electoral College and how they need to get the 270 and how close they are and how Clinton is losing some of them. This is part of their game. They're trying to keep these elections, the election results, very, very close to make it look like it's completely fair. And we can see right now that the United States has already breached Russia, and they're saying that they opened a doorway into their infrastructure to cyber attack whenever they feel it is necessary. Because they're saying if they cannot control this election, if people call them out on it, they will use a cyber attack against Russia, because what they're going to say is that Russia attacked the United States and caused the elections to go in favor of Trump. Because right now with Bev Harris, the alternative media, everyone is looking at these elections very, very closely. They're looking for fraud. We have hackers looking. And we can see right now they are prepared and they're making plans all over the place. And we can see already that the corporate media is already out there reporting that the U.S. government hackers are ready to hit back if Russia tries to disrupt the elections. This is on NBC, ABC, Yahoo News. It's on all of them. And we can see right now that Russia is demanding some type of explanation of what is going on here, because the Pentagon, they're saying they hacked into Russia's power grids, telecommunications, and pretty much everything else, and they're ready to bring something down here if things don't go their way. Now, we know that Russia has nothing to do with all of this. We know that they're being used because they need to explain why the elections need to be halted. So they have physical attacks ready to go. They have cyber attacks ready to go. And we can see that Maria Zakharova is out there saying that if the United States does not officially answer Russia, we can see that cyber terrorism exists and the cyber war is off and running. And Russia most likely will maybe pause for a moment, but if the United States does bring down their electrical grid, telecommunications, they will respond. And the United States government central bankers, they want this to happen. They want this war to move forward. They want the elections to be halted. Now, if none of this occurs, they're going to keep the race very, very close. This way, people think it's a fair race. It was a close race. And of course, they're going to have their candidate come out as the winner. That's what they want. Does it mean their plans are going to work? No. But they're going to try to make it as close as possible. So even if Trump comes out as a winner, most likely the election results will be contested, and most likely it'll have to go to the Supreme Court, just like we saw with Bush and Gore. I think this is what they're trying to do. But we can see right now that they already have plans ready to go, and people should be aware that if we do see things go live, and I say live where there is something happening in New York or Texas or Virginia, or we see the introduction of a cyber attack on maybe one little town or city, and they're saying, yes, it is Russia, or something like this, everyone should be aware and ready to hunker down, because once this goes live and they want to halt the elections, they're going to go full throttle. They're going to get the green light, and in many areas you might see the electric go out. You might see ATMs shut down. You might see cyber war happening right in front of your eyes. And when this does happen, this is going to cause havoc on the street. The president will have to call a state of emergency. The election system will be shut down. And if we get to this point, this means that war is on its way. Now, if they're able to keep everything under control and they can keep the manipulation going, they're going to keep this race very, very close. They're already prepared for those individuals who are ready to riot. And what I say is everyone needs to remain peaceful. Everyone needs to be calm and protest together against the election that it was rigged and provide the proof. We need to band together to show the government we are on to them. Because what they want is they want people to go out there with weapons. They want people to go out there to smash because they know how to handle an uprising. They know how to handle people who are not obeying what the government says. They bring in troops. They bring in their hit squads to calm the people down. And they like to use force. And this is why everyone needs to remain peaceful. And by the millions, we need to show facts. We need to show proof that this was a rigged election. And we need to show how it was done. Because we know they have agent provocateurs standing by and ready to do what they need to do. Look what happened with Trump. Look what happened with his other rallies where they had people planted in the office, in the audience. They want this to happen. So we're getting closer. We can see things are really heating up. We can see the propaganda is out there to convince the world that we're going to see a cyber attack, that we're going to see a physical attack. And if this does occur, you need to be ready. You need to have your family where they're going to meet if something occurs. You need to have food. You need to have supplies, just in case. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.